Welcome to this week's Crazy Eight Challenge, where each week college football experts, fanatics, armchair quarterbacks, and casual fans all compete against a single opponent. That opponent, the Magic 8 Ball. Well, Steve, it finally happened. After being totally shut out the week before, some fan entries actually beat the Magic 8 Ball. So tonight's going to be a little bit different. Coach is out attending some live action. So he can actually get some better analysis and maybe stop busting on the 8 ball each week. And the king of the court, Will Latch, is honoring his broadcasting duties as he is broadcasting the area and regional high school volleyball tournaments. In addition, so Coach's entries and analysis and his picks were pre-recorded, and he'll be joined by us. And then Will's, we're just going to put his picks up in the corner. But to make up in their absence, our first fan to win the weekly prize is Go Blue24, and Go Blue24 has agreed to be on with us tonight and dazzle us with his insight and analysis and expertise or lack thereof when it comes into college football. So, Steve, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. I feel like you just keep making things tougher and tougher each week, GC. You know, first off, it's can you beat the unbeatable Magic 8 Ball? Now you're recruiting in ringers from the big house to show us how little we really know.
Well, I don't know about the big house, but so we'll reveal Go Blue. I don't think it's any surprise who we cheer for. Go Blue 24, Mike Chase, Birmingham, Alabama, basketball coach for how many years now?
This is 27. My 2017, so my 27th varsity team. So
well, there you go. So a little different arena, but you are coaching freshman football this year too. So you are bringing some coaching insight to it. So, anyways, we got 10 games to go through real quick tonight, guys, and get everybody's. I'm going to start off with the coach, who is, like I said, pre-recorded tonight. Coach, the first game we got is Penn State at Michigan, 11 a.m. on Fox. This game's a little bit been flying under the radar. I think Penn State and Michigan have both been just kind of, just a little bit not talked about as much as they should. And this matchup should be pretty exciting. So, Coach, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. It is. This game is really a little bit under the radar, and it shouldn't be. I mean, it's a top 10 matchup. You've got Big Ten East matchup, so it's going to have conference implications as well as national implications down the road. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Penn State, you got senior Sean Clifford, who's been there forever. 9 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. For Michigan, you got sophomore J.J. McCarthy, who took over the starting spot from Cade McNamara. He won that in preseason camp. Harbaugh was real smart, let them kind of duke it out in the first couple of games, and then name McCarthy the starter. He's also 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Last week, Penn State was open. Wolverines, they pulled away from Indiana late after struggling. Their running back coach, Mike Hart, had a seizure on the field during the first half. They had to cart him off. I think that had something to do with the Wolverines' psyche early on, but they got in, regrouped, and again pulled away from Indiana as they should. These two teams never met until Penn State joined the Big Ten Conference back in the early 90s. In their 25 meetings, Michigan holds a 15-10 edge. The road team has won the last 2 meetings. That should favor Penn State, but I'm going with Michigan. I like the maize and blue in this one.
Well, I'm going to jump to you, Coach Chase. Obviously, you're a Michigan fan, and so what's your thoughts? What do you like in this one?
Well, we finally broke through last year and beat Ohio State, and I think that has kind of bled over into this year's season. I like McNamara playing quarterback. I thought we were really predictable last week in the first half, especially. Ran it every time on first down. Indiana's safeties were coming downhill on us, putting us in 2nd and 10s and making us real predictable. I think that's why we struggled offensively in the first half. And I think a lot of people told Harbaugh that. So I think that, we're going to play action pass a lot early on first down, try to hit some big plays. I think that's going to open up the running game. And, I think playing at home is big, even though Coach said road teams won the last two. I like Michigan in this one. And I think it'll be close early, and I think Michigan will pull away in the second half.
What do you think there, Teach?
Well, I think that Michigan has too much. Coach talked about running back coach Mike Hart and his seizure on the sideline. I think running back Blake Corum is just too much. I'm going to go with the home team with Michigan, as Bo Schembechler once said. I need a Michigan man coaching Michigan, and I'm not going to pick against a Michigan man who's on our panel tonight.
The team.
And I'll tell you, that's what I said early in the intro there, that Michigan's flying a little under the radar. There hadn't been a lot of controversy around Jim Harbaugh this year, and he's got to really focus on coaching, I think. And I think he, even with the quarterback, not controversy, but the competition he had in the preseason, he kept it quiet and handled it very well. And so I think he's focused. And I think being home in the Big House, I think Michigan gets it done as well. However, the 8-ball likes Penn State, the road team. So
I love it.
You love it.
I'm going to beat that sucker again this week.
There you go. You can get multiple entries. All right, Steve, I'm going to lead you into this one. This one's, it's kind of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Pick Alabama at Tennessee, 2:30 game on CBS.
Alabama has Heisman winner Bryce Young, who may not play. And even if he does, there's no guarantee he'll be 100%. And on the other side of the field, the Vols have their own Heisman hopeful in Hendon Hooker. Tennessee's offense is number 1 in the country, averaging 548 yards a game. They're second in scoring at 46.8 points. Hooker has tossed 10 touchdowns with no interceptions. Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs leads the nation with an average of 8.3 yards a carry. So if Jalen Milroe is quarterbacking the Tide, I look for a steady dose of Gibbs. Nick Saban has never lost to the Vols as the Alabama coach, posting 15 consecutive victories. The Tide has also won 35 of 36 against the SEC East. Roll Tide.
My heart wants to pick Alabama, but my head says you got to go with Tennessee. I think the big question mark is quarterback for Alabama. Even if he comes back, I'm not sure to what level he's going to be back. And I think at Tennessee, and I think Josh Heupel has these guys really firing on all cylinders. As much as it kills me to do it, I got to pick Tennessee. Coach Chase?
Well, I got my master's from Alabama, and my wife is a graduate and a track star at Alabama. But Alabama has not fared on the road well the last couple years if you go back and look at their track record. And Heupel's got those guys playing at a really high level. I think Neyland Stadium, which is one of the biggest stadiums, not the biggest, that's why we call it the Big House, but it's big. And I think that Alabama has gotten by on the skin of their teeth on the last couple road games. I think it comes back to bite them. I don't think Bryce Young, even if he plays, is going to be 100%. And Milroe fumbles the ball too much, and he's not a good not as efficient of a passer. I think all signs point to Tennessee.
Yeah, I think you look too. That's where Tennessee's Achilles heel seems to be, is on their pass defense. And so if you don't have an arm, and again, their defense struggles a little bit, but I'm not sure Alabama can go toe to toe with them on the road. So let's see what the coach thinks.
First time since 1989 that these teams have entered the game. Both of them undefeated, both ranked in the top 10. And guess who was the coach then? George, Philip Fulmer. So that's how long it's been. Tennessee's quarterback, Hendon Hooker, he's been fabulous. I've said it over and over again. I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves. This week, he's got his best wide receiver, Cedric Tillman, coming back from injury. He's been out about 3 or 4 weeks now. He seems to be ready to go, and this is the right time for him. as you said, I think it all boils down to Bryce Young, if he plays, and if he does play, how effective can he be? When you look at this overall matchup, this is a series of streaks.
We're going streaking!
But now, just since 1970, the last 52 years, Bama had a streak of 11, then Tennessee won 4 straight. Then Bama won 8 of 9, and the one that they didn't win was the last tie that there'll ever be in this series. Then Tennessee won 10 of 11, and then Bama's won the last 15. Now, Nick Saban, he's pretty successful against Tennessee. He's 16-1. So again, he's got a pretty good track record against the Vols. For Tennessee fans, they're having memories of 1982. And I don't care if you wasn't even born in 1982. If you're a Vol fan, you know about this and you're thinking about it. Bama came into that game ranked second. Tennessee was only 2-1 at that time. Everything pointed to another Alabama blowout. The stadium was decked out in all orange. Tennessee wore all orange with the exception of the white helmets. Neyland Stadium was rocking. At the time, it was the largest crowd ever to see a college football game, and they got their first win over the Tide in 11 seasons. These two teams are really good. Both of them are really good, and regardless what happens on Saturday, I think that both of these teams are going to be in a great bowl game come into the season. George, my head over and over says Tennessee, Tennessee, Tennessee. But my gut says Alabama, and until they prove me wrong, I've got to go with Alabama on this one.
Coach, you think we could be looking at a situation where this game is a rematch in the SEC championship?
It possibly could, because it's going to come down to Tennessee and Georgia, and it will come down to that game. So it could be a rematch. Well,
Steve, Coach, likes Alabama. George, Coach Chase, and the 8-Ball likes Tennessee. So there we go. So, all right, Steve, it seems like each week the Big 12 is finding a way to have a big matchup and very competitive and exciting teams to watch every Saturday. For some reason, you guys want to put them all on at 11 a.m., but this one you guys decided to put on at 2:30 on ABC. Oklahoma State at TCU.
Yeah, Big 12 battle of undefeated teams. 13th ranked TCU took down unbeaten Kansas last week, and they have the 4th rated scoring offense in the country. Oklahoma State is ranked number 8 in the nation, and they're scoring 45 points per game, good for 3rd best in the country. OSU quarterback Spencer Sanders is a true dual threat QB. He's looking very comfortable running Coach Mike Gundy's attack. TCU is led by Max Duggan and outstanding wide receiver Quentin Johnson, who put on a highlight show against the Jayhawks. He had 14 catches, 206 yards, and the winning touchdown catch. In a high-scoring affair, I'm going to take the Frogs in this one.
Really? You've been high on the Frogs for the last couple of weeks. I just think that TCU's had too many battles the last couple of weeks. Kansas, I mean, they've had a lot of tough. You take the Oklahoma game out of there, but they've had some tough matchups, and I think they've expended a lot of energy on a lot of tough games leading up to this, where Oklahoma State has not necessarily. I am actually going to go with Oklahoma State. Coach Chase?
Not a big Big 12 guy. I do follow, and I did watch the TCU Kansas game because I definitely had an interest in Kansas and them having game day there and all that stuff. But I like TCU in this one. I'm gonna go with the Horned Frogs.
There you go. All right, let's see what the coach thinks.
TCU keeps getting it done, but Oklahoma State keeps getting it done too. Mike Gundy and the Cowboys got by Texas Tech last week. They won. And the game was tight, but at the same time, I don't think that the Cowboys had to extend the same type of energy that TCU did when they went to Kansas. That was a very physical game in Lawrence last week. I like Oklahoma State in this one. It's not going to surprise me at all to see TCU continue, but I think that the Cowboys may have their best squad in a while. And so I'm going with Oklahoma State.
And the 8-ball likes Oklahoma State. He likes Mike Gundy. He's a man. He's 40. Right, Steve?
That's right.
So, all right. This next one, when NC State at Syracuse, number 18. Syracuse 5-0. He really has got his team buying into his philosophy that he picked up as a player when he played for Dick Tomey. And the motto is try less, harder. And he said for years he tried to figure out what that meant. And he said he finally realized that what it basically meant is, do what you've been trained to do what you've been practicing, play loose, believe in yourself and be confident. He said every job that he really wanted and he went in real, uptight about, he never got it. But when he went into job interviews and realized that, hey, I'm qualified. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I'll get the next one. And, this summer, after they lost 3 games, going 5-7 last year, 3 games by field goal or less, each one of those games, he took 10 basic plays and said, if we had just changed this and done our job and not played apprehensive or uptight, that would have been the difference in the game. So I believe that, he's got, as much as, NC State's been solid this year, I really believe he's got them playing with a belief that they are confident, they're loose, they're a complete unit, that each man is, believes in something bigger than themselves and the team. So I look for Syracuse to continue with it being at home. I like the Cuse. Steve?
Yes, Syracuse is coming off a bye. NC State is coming off a hard-fought win over Florida State where they trailed 17-3. They rallied to take a 19-17 lead and held on at the end. But the health of quarterback Devin Leary, I think, is a big concern. So I'll stick with Syracuse at home.
Coach Chase.
Yeah, Syracuse has a nice win over a Purdue team. I think I like what you said about what they're building there. I think them losing to Clemson and then getting a tough win against Florida State the last 2 weeks. I think it's taken a lot out of them. I'm going to go with the Cuse.
And let's see who the coach likes.
North Carolina State, we expected them to be good. The Orange, as you said, they've been a bit of a surprise, especially after going 6-17 over the last couple of years. But listen, Dino Babers, he's had 1 winning season since taking the job. And I say that to give kudos to the Syracuse administration for sticking with him because Babers does things the right way. He's going to build a program that will last. Dave Doran in North Carolina State, he's another guy that does things the right way. And the one thing with Dave Doran, though, Saturday, he's got to play a backup quarterback. They got by FSU with that backup quarterback after Levy went down with an injury. I don't think they get by the Orange on the road with a backup quarterback. I like Syracuse.
8-ball likes NC State. So that'll be interesting. And, Coach Chase, you mentioned that Purdue. I think that Purdue win looms huge for that team because I think that's where you can see that Syracuse really started to believe and play loose. For years, that's a game they would lose and the rest of the season would implode. So this next one, Arkansas at BYU, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN. You're kind of a rare mid-season out-of-conference game to travel like that. Let's see what the coach thinks.
Yes, just a weird scheduling scenario allowed this game to happen. I think it's just what the Razorbacks need. As you said, they're deflated after 3 straight losses, A&M, then Bama, and Mississippi State. And the crazy thing about those 3 is that Mississippi State was the worst beating of the 3 of those. Now, KJ Jefferson, after suffering that head injury against Alabama, he's expected to be back. I think that this is a tipping point for both of these programs for the season. I think Sam Pittman does his best coaching job this week, gets the Razorbacks ready to go out to Provo, takes care of the Cougars, and gets back on a winning streak.
Steve, what you think?
I think the Arkansas defense is giving up too many big plays. I look for Cougar quarterback Jaron Hall to have a big day. And Coach mentioned the health status of Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson. He's not coming into this game 100%. So with BYU at home, I'll take the Cougars.
There you go. Coach Chase?
I think that I think SEC, I'm a Big Ten guy, but I think that what Arkansas and all the SEC teams have to go through and prepare for them to look at a team like BYU or somebody out of conference on film. I think they're just going to be too physical. I think they're going to manhandle. I think that they see a chance to ride a 3-game losing streak. And I think it's going to be one of those typical, they're going to run it. They're going to play smash mouth, and BYU isn't going to have an answer for that kind of physicality.
Yeah, I agree. And reports out of practice today that Jefferson did look good. They were excited. The receivers were excited. And obviously some of that just bulletin board could be bulletin board material. I think one stat that you look at that is kind of disheartening or disconcerting is, Arkansas's -2 on turnovers for the season. However, they're averaging almost 100 yards more on the ground than BYU. And to your point, I think the smash mouth, I think getting it done on the ground and controlling the clock, I think they get it done at BYU. Then it feels like both these teams are desperate for a win. And, it almost feels like whichever team gets it may salvage, an 8-5, 8-4 season. And the other team really could maybe see themselves, asking, looking for some answers at the end of the season. So, and the 8-ball likes BYU.
I love it. I love it. I love all I'm going to beat that 8-ball again.
There you go. Who's dinging there?
Yeah,
I got some dinging. All right. It was hard to believe this one made it to the schedule this week, but it's a 3-point line. It's two teams, I think, looking to find their way, just to find the way back on the road, not much less the railroad tracks, and that's Wisconsin at Michigan State. Both teams started off top 25, ranked top 25 to start the season. Wisconsin finds himself 3-3 with no head coach. Michigan State 2-4, I think Michigan State has some huge problems up there. They're only average at 107 yards rushing per game. The quarterback, I think, has almost as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. I think it's 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. They're also only averaging 24 minutes of time of possession of the game, and their good opponents are getting a full 7 minutes more. I just don't see how you can win a football game, and that doesn't seem like it's corrected from just by 1 week. So I'm going to go with Wisconsin. Let's go with the coach.
Yeah, not only disappointing season for Michigan State, but for Wisconsin also. Both of these teams started out ranked. The Spartans now have lost 4 straight. As you mentioned, the Badgers fired Paul Chryst. Jim Leonard, former Wisconsin star and NFL vet, stepped in, made some tweaks, changed the practice schedule. Seems like there's new life in the Badgers right now. They played with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy last week. Mel Tucker, Spartans are still looking for answers. I don't think he's going to find them this week. I like Wisconsin.
Steve?
Yeah, both teams are coming off disappointing losses. I think Michigan State has too many injuries, so I'll go with the Badgers.
Coach Chase?
Yeah, I don't like either one of them. But I guess I certainly can't pick Sparty. I do think that Wisconsin wants to rally around, their interim. And so I think they're going to show up and beat Michigan State. That's my hope.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you will beat the 8-ball this week, or you're going to lose horribly, because the 8-ball's got Michigan State. So I think you've been opposite the 8-ball in every pick.
I love it.
All right, we're going to start off with the coach here. He's got LSU at Florida.
I agree. And this is not the traditional ranked matchup that we're used to seeing between Florida and LSU that we just saw time and time again back when Spurrier and Urban Meyer was at Florida, and then when Saban and Les Miles were at LSU. As you mentioned, two first-year coaches, Brian Kelly and Billy Napier. Jaden Daniels, the LSU quarterback, has been nicked up. I think he's healthy now. He's getting better. Anthony Richardson, again, just can't figure out why he can't be unbelievably good at quarterback, and he started out that way, but now he's faltered again. 5 touchdowns versus 7 interceptions. Last week, LSU was curb stomped by Tennessee. No other way to put it. Gators, they were fortunate to beat Mizzou. The last 5 Tiger wins in the Swamp was only by a total of 14 points. Most of them were a 3-point win, a 1-point win. The largest margin of victory has been 4 points when LSU has won in the Swamp. George, this is a game of numbers. Florida has won 33, LSU has won 32, and there have been 3 ties, okay? I'm going with LSU, and after Saturday, it's going to be 33, 33, and 3 in this series.
Well, Coach, I got to disagree with you on that one. I mean, I don't think LSU has looked that good at all. I think they were lucky to beat Auburn. They were down. Auburn basically gave that game back to them. Did not look good against Tennessee. I know that was an 11 a.m. game in Death Valley, and most LSU fans don't know how to find Death Valley that early in the morning. But I just don't think LSU's, and with it being at Florida, I'm going with Florida. Coach Chase?
Yeah, I haven't been impressed with Brian Kelly and LSU, and I haven't been impressed with Florida either. The only thing that's really swaying me right now is the fact that it's at Florida and LSU got shellacked last week. So I'm going with the Gators.
Steve?
Both teams in this one are 4-2. LSU looking to bounce back from that 40-13 drubbing at the hands of Tennessee. Quarterback Jaden Daniels should be able to throw it on a porous Gators secondary. So I'll lean with Brian Kelly and the Tigers.
All right. Well, the 8-ball doesn't like Brian Kelly either. He goes with Florida. I think that's the first one, Coach, that you're aligned. You're aligned. Okay. Steve, why don't you tell us how you think Dabo, Clemson are going to fare against the mighty Noles of Florida State?
Clemson is 6-0. They're up to 4th in the most recent AP poll, while the Seminoles are coming off back-to-back losses to ranked opponents and currently find themselves unranked. Florida State had a disastrous interception at the goal line to lose to the Wolfpack, already in field goal range and trailing by 2 points. Quarterback Jordan Travis aired one out to the end zone, and his receiver cut the route short, giving NC State the victory. Florida State plays well at home, and while I expect their offense to keep this one close, I can't see the Noles defense shutting down DJ Uyunglele, and I'll go with Clemson to move to 7-0.
Coach Chase?
Yeah, Clemson's a class, I think, of the ACC, who always seems to underperform with all of the other teams that we keep trying to prop up, and North Carolina, NC State, Miami. Florida State is never going to get back until they probably hire Deion Sanders, if he'll ever go back home. So I'm going with Clemson big.
Clemson big. Well, yeah. I'm going to break with you guys on this one, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but it just seems you go back and you look that Clemson tends to have a little stumble somewhere in the month of October. And I don't know, this one just feels like it's right. I think it's easy to overlook Florida State right now. I don't feel good about it. But just looking at it, I think that and DJ, you can say his last name for me, Steve, because I always butcher it. But it just, he has a tendency to be inconsistent. And when he's off, he can be really off. And just with this being a night game down at Doak Campbell Stadium, I'm going to take a leap here and go with Florida State. And let's see who the coach likes.
I am shocked that the number 4 Clemson Tigers going to Tallahassee, only 3.5-point favorites right now. They've won 14 out of the last 20. They've won 6 straight in this series. Both have played 2 ranked teams. They have 2 common opponents, Wake Forest and North Carolina State. Clemson beat both, took overtime against Wake Forest at Wake Forest, but they did what they had to do to win the football game. Florida State, they lost to both of them, and the Wolfpack beat Florida State last week with a backup quarterback. You look at the Seminoles, they're at 4-2. I think they got a gift win in week 1 versus LSU. They very easily could and should be 3-3. I think the Tigers going to Tallahassee, and I think the Tigers win big.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. You guys 3 all seem to know something I don't, but the 8 ball agrees with me. Florida State. So it looks like Coach
money
Chase
in my pocket again this week.
Looks like Coach Chase is going 8-2, 9-1 in the 8 ball, or vice versa. So I'll tell you, this next one is one that I've been pretty excited about. I think it's time to find out where USC really stands. You look, they haven't really seemed to have played anybody to start the season. Their Pac-12 matchups have all been at the bottom of the conference. They've played a 1-4 Fresno State team, and their toughest matchup in the Pac-12 is Oregon State back on the 24th, which they won 17-14. And I think it's really time to find out where Lincoln Riley, is with that program this week. Coach, what do you think?
You look at these 2 teams, and they almost mirror each other. They're both averaging 40 points per game. USC is giving up 18 points per game. Utah's giving up 19 points per game. There's only 4 yards difference in average yards of total offense and 35 yards difference in defense. As you mentioned, this is going to be the Trojans' first test. It's at Rice-Eccles Stadium at night. Now, let me tell you what type of factor that is. USC is ranked number 7, and they're going on the road as an underdog to a 4-2 team. Caleb Williams, the Trojans quarterback, thrown for a tad less than 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Cam Rising didn't play that great against UCLA last week, but he's been a solid performer for the Utes. Last year, this game was 42-26 in LA, but this is a different Trojan team with an influx of talent, especially from the transfer portal. Not only you have Caleb Williams, you also have Mario Williams, a wide receiver coming over from Oklahoma. Jordan Addison, probably the most electric wide receiver in college football last year, transferring from Pitt. And then Travis Dye, the running back who transferred from Oregon. Now, that's just the offense. And they have several on defense that are contributing and starting that came out of the transfer portal. Listen, I like USC, but just by hair. I mean, USC, the Trojans in a tight one.
Coach Chase?
Yeah, I watched one USC game or partial game this year. It was against Oregon State. Oregon State, I thought, outplayed them and probably could have and should have maybe easily won that game, 17-14. I don't think, and I do like watching Utah play. And I know that when they play at home, it's a very, very crazy environment. I think USC is going to struggle, and I'm going to go Utah on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you too. I'm going to go Utah, even though they ended up losing and running out of gas against UCLA. From what I saw last week, to me, it looks like UCLA is probably the power of the Pac-12 right now. And until I see USC step up and do something against somebody, I'm not saying that they don't have it, but they have struggled a little bit at some times, and I'm just not so sure they're not reading too much of their own press. And until they delivered on the field, I'm going with Utah. Steve?
Yeah, USC 6-0, ranked 7th in the country, averaging 42 points a game. The Utes, while they're just 4-2, are still ranked 20th. I don't see Kyle Whittingham's defending Pac-12 champions losing again. So I'll go with the Utes at home.
There you go. Again, Coach, you seem to be on the opposite side. The 8-ball likes USC.
Like it.
So I'm going to let you, just because I just want to remind you now that we are talking football here, not basketball. I'm going to let you, Coach Chase, lead us into this last one. North Carolina at Duke. I know traditionally this time of year we're talking basketball with those two teams, but they've decided they want to stay relevant in football just a little bit longer. What do you think?
Well, I'm only going off of this one thing. There's 5 active coaches that have a national championship. I saw this on an Aflac trivia question last weekend. And the one that everybody always forgets is the Fighting Mac Browns. And so I'm going with North Carolina and the old dog, Mac Brown. That's what I'm going with.
See the other coach likes.
Tar Heels have won 3 in a row in this series. Drake May, their quarterback, 21 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, a 90.96 quarterback rating. As you mentioned, Gene Chiswick's getting that North Carolina defense better as the season goes on. I'll be the first to admit they were like matadors during the first part of the season. People were just running by them, and they were waving. North Carolina got a road win last week at Miami. Duke overtime road loss at Georgia Tech. Now, the Heels have to travel again this week, albeit 12 miles down the road, but I think they get another road win. They go to 6-1. They're back in the top 25 come Sunday morning. I like North Carolina.
I'm going North Carolina as well, just for the reasons you mentioned, Coach. You know, coach with a national championship, Gene Chiswick, defensive coordinator, and I can't overlook that Duke lost to Georgia Tech last week. Georgia Tech, I know they've got some life with coaching change, but they just have been so inept all season long. I just can't get past that. So I'm going with North Carolina. Steve?
North Carolina at 5-1, as Coach mentioned. They're led by rising star quarterback Drake May. And even though every week on this show we seem to talk up Gene Chiswick, the concern for Mac Brown's squad is definitely on that side of the ball. Their defense is giving up 465 yards and 32 points a game. Duke's defense also struggles, probably because of the loss of Coach K. Oh, that might be on the other side, different court. So in a high-scoring in-state rivalry, I'll go with the Tar Heels.
And the 8-ball likes Duke at home. So, I mean, it's just what is going on. But I'm telling you, it's legitimate. And, you know, the 8-ball is, you know, and I've recorded it. In fact, we put it out there. I mean, it's out there on the YouTube short, how it's done. It's all legitimate. None of us know the 8-ball picks until right before the show, after we've already marked our picks and you know, said which way we're going to go. In fact, I'm the only one that knows them right before the show. Everybody else doesn't know it till I reveal it. So for those of you that submit your entries, you can follow all weekend long on Instagram, Game Day Sports Radio 1 on Instagram, or Speed Network 1. We update the standings all weekend long, and then Sunday nights, Steve and I will reveal the entries that beat the 8-ball and make a drawing for next week's participant with us, and automatic entry into the end of the season grand prize drawing. As it stands right now, if Coach Chase is either going to be in the cellar or he might be back here, one of the contestants again, getting drawn. So
I'll be back.
Anyways, thank you guys for your time tonight, and enjoyed talking some college football with you. And hopefully you guys get to enjoy watching some football this weekend. And until next week.
Yeah!